Good afternoon, Market Chameleons and everyone joining us for the first time. Thanks for coming by and watching the Market Chameleon Ryan Mastro Unveiling Real-Time Options Strategies After Market Show. But before we get started, let's take a look at the shared disclaimer. Please be aware that neither Market Chameleon, OptionsRobot, Ryan, or myself are registered investment advisors or a broker-dealer. If you're searching for investment advice, please reach out to a licensed professional. This webinar, as all our webinars, is concerning tools and products from Market Chameleon and OptionsRobot are for informational purposes only. Please reach out to a licensed professional if you need any other help. With that, one last look at the disclaimer while we welcome Ryan to the stage. How are you doing, Ryan?
Doing well. How yourself?
Great. Let me share your screen.
Yep. Let's do a full screen here, and we can just talk about the markets here real quick for a second, because I think that's important, right? We're going into a kind of a sketchy week with a potential market that has, or an economy that has a government shutdown for the U.S. at least. Again, I don't think that's going to cause much damage here, but we did from last Thursday, we've had a nice little climb. Today was kind of a blah day, even though we gapped up a little bit, started to push earlier in the morning and just kind of stalled out, really didn't go anywhere. So it's kind of that candle there is kind of an indecision candle, just doesn't know what to do when it closes, really close to the open. So that happened pretty much across the board, right? We saw the SPY do the exact same thing. And we're just kind of in the in this zone here of, can we start to break out the highs? We have earnings coming out in the next couple of weeks. We start banks usually the second week of this month, so the October 13th month or week. And then, we start getting into like a Netflix. Now, Netflix had negative news today that potential tariffs coming from the current administration on foreign movies. And, I was looking at this as a bear trade, a little expensive to trade, so it's not something I want to give out to you guys as a general public, but for a certain crowd that can afford a little heavier duty trade, it could be something that you want to trade, like a put vertical or maybe a put butterfly or something along those lines, because the options are, the at-the-money options are over $20. So a little bit expensive, but that could be interesting if you start to see a little more weakness in there, or there is confirmation of that. Now, a couple of the names that we'll see on the Market Chameleon scanner is the cannabis stocks. And there was a lot of those. So that's one I think you want to probably pay attention to, like a CGC. And you can see that started to percolate today. A Tilray really had a good day today, big green candle. Another one not on that list, but one that I have been trading. We've been watching this for since back in here. We've been kind of on this trade and watching these. So this one had a pretty good move today where they climbed all the way back up and closed above this high. So there's definitely some movement here. And I think this is warranted because Trump tweeted today, and I think this is, really something we got to pay attention to, is Trump tweeted today that there's potential Medicare bonus coming from this. What I mean by that is, not only could they declassify cannabis, but they could then say that the cannabis could be paid for by potentially, obviously with the right script, by Medicare. So that would be absolutely, crazy to go from a drug that was, putting people in jail. And look, it's legal in roughly half the states across the country. And again, it's one of those things, right? It is what it is. But some states won't approve it. Some states will. If they declassify it, then I think it has to become legal in all those states. Then it's a matter of, does that clear out the jail cells? Does that clear out? What does that do to the stocks? And I think they could easily get a very big jump in here. And you start to look at these in the big picture. Here's VFF in the big picture. When things were all hot in 2021, this thing got up to about $20. It's trading $3 right now, right? So something like that, a Tilray, Tilray, again, you got up in 2021, got up to $65 way back in here. You're trading under $2 at the moment. So for something like this, I am not really looking to play the options on these. I'm just saying I'm buying the stock. right? Mainly because that you don't need to have an option to get the leverage here. The stock price is basically an option. So I have a couple hundred shares of all of these. Obviously, the cheaper ones, maybe a little bit more. So those are ones that I've been watching and staying on. I think given the news that we could see a little more pop, again, we get a little pop on a couple of these. You get up 30-40% in the stock price. Maybe you want to let some of it go just to lock in a little profit along the way. So those came in, and I'll show you that in terms of the UOA in Market Chameleon. There were several of those. You can see down here, I saw CGC. That's kind of this growth. You can see on the bullish side, very, very large volume in there. And I believe we had Tilray in here as well. There it is, number 3 on the list here, right? And that was very bullish as well. So a couple other names in here that I want to look at, again, just from the UOA, trying to find some opportunity. I know last week we had a good amount of questions, so I want to make sure I answer those at the end of class or end of this webinar. So if you do have questions, just plug them in there. We'll get to them in a couple of minutes. But a couple of names in here that are popping out news-wise. Freeport, they had the big mine collapse. So that still looks weak. I'm not really looking at that one as an active position. I think it's going to be very tough to kind of quantify. They tried to rally it a little bit today and get it off the bottom. So I'm not really that excited about it because I think this could linger for a very long time. So I'm not really, excited as a short-term try to recovery trade. So I've shied away from that one completely. A couple other names in here at the top here. PayPal, I thought looked very interesting today. I was actually talking about that with one of my colleagues that, from a chart perspective, I thought this looked pretty good. We can get back above, let's say, this area in here, right? Let's say, what's this high there? That is something like 70.70. And that's not that far away from our current close, right? So that's not bad. So I would say we can get through there. That's probably one we want to, keep an eye on. So let's actually put a trade in for that, show you how OptionsRobot can help you a little bit. So I would do an entry bot and say in PayPal, PYPL, there we go. And I'm going to say greater than that 70.70. 70, and then I'm going to add an option. So I just want to buy, I'm going to do something like, I'm going to do next week's options. And I'll do, they do have 71, so I'll do that. And I'll do a quick, right? Just do it very fast. Now, what this does is creates a bot to help you get into the trade that you don't have to sit there and watch it. I'm going to get in for the best price possible. And then what this part is basically a template to say, how can I look at this and how do I want to exit this trade? So we can get in for a good price. Then it's the matter of how do we get out of that for a good price. So one of the things I use, again, I've covered this a couple of times, is your average true range, just to see how much it moves on a day. It's only moving roughly $2 a day. So I can't expect a lot out of that. Now, target wise, I'd probably say something like this high here. That high is 73.28. So that's probably a good spot to say I want to roll there or take some profits off the table. So I'm going to do that. Let's go back to my positions and go to my entry bots down here, right here. And I'm going to add I'm going to do a roll. You know what? I'll do this one. I'm going to create a custom for you guys. So create one. I'm going to say if the stock value goes greater than 73.50, then I want to roll my option. I'm going to roll it up to, I'm going to stay in that same expiration because I'm already out next week. And I'm going to roll up to, I'll roll up to the, say, 73s, right? So I'm going to roll from, at that point, I'm going to be rolling my 71s to the 73s, which is $2. I'll click create. I'm going to do a quick on that as well and click create. So that creates my first roll. Then I may say, you know what, where is another good resistance area that I would probably consider exiting the trade? Getting into, let's see, that's going to start to create an even bigger breakout. I might do, let's say, another roll at, say, 75.50, and then maybe look to get out at 78. So let's create that. We'll do those real quick. So how do I do that? I'll come back in here. I already have a position to roll it. No other broker can do this, where you can add an additional layer of complexity where I want to add a trade on top of this. So I'm going to add another one, and I'm going to use my hypothetical 73 option that I'm in and say if I get over greater than 75.50, I was saying, I'm going to roll again, and I'll roll up to the same expiration and go up to the specific strike. Let's use the 75s, and we'll do another quick there and do now this is what this gives me is a gap override protection. I think this is important. So if we get positive news in PayPal where they really got this up, what this will do is rather than me roll up to the 73.50s and then roll up to the 75s, it's going to automatically roll me up to the 75s, right? So that's important to be able to understand. That's why I put that in there. And I'm going to do quick and click. So what do we got going on here? So that one, nope, I got to do quick and do active. And why is it not allowing me? I'm doing something wrong here. Click this, roll to 75s. Stock value, market. Nope, that's got to be. What am I missing here? So this one, roll that, roll one. Yeah, something's going on with this activate. So I want to activate that, leave that alone. But I may even consider just exiting if I get up there. Now that I'm looking at the number 75, so we could do something along those lines. Current on that, if this long greater than 75.50, then I want to exit all. No, let's take the exit all up. We'll go to just a roll. I'm going to do this again. Let's try this one more time. So I'm in that there, and I want to roll up to specific strike. We'll go to the 75s again. And I want to do a quick. And some reason I'm not seeing why this doesn't like this trade. It's not allowing me to do this. I must be doing something wrong. So we're going to skip out of that, and we're going to just do, let's do another entry bot. Let's do it this way. I'm going to say if that comes right back up, exit, market, and that should give me the trade there. It's not allowing me to do it. So I'm not sure what's going on with that, why that's going on, but let's skip out of that. So again, this is, we'll look to do another one, but this is what we're trying to do here, get in and then use the bot to get out of the trade. I'll have to do a little work on why that's not triggering for me on the other one. So coming back to our Market Chameleon, working our way down this list of potential trades. And obviously there's a couple in here that were just really, really on fire today. Cipher mining obviously was, let's go look at the chart over here real quick so I can cheat and not have to jump around on going back and forth. CIFR, oops, that didn't work. Cipher, and this is one that was kind of beaten down, starting to come back here. So this could be one that you like in terms of the bigger picture. I think it's got a little bit more work to do here. Definitely could be on the radar. A couple other names in here. App's been absolutely insane. There's good volume coming in. The stock was up today on an upgrade. I'm not a big fan of that in terms of trying to play catch up on an upgrade. Etsy, I thought, had a really big move. I guess the question is, do you feel if it's too big, in terms of the bigger picture, because it's, this is the biggest candle we've had out of all of this, or is it positive news enough that you're going to be excited about jumping into something like this? I don't mind it. I'd probably want to make sure that it gets through the high of the day. Again, that one is 75.77. So let's try to do that real quick with an entry bot just to get into a couple of trades here. So do a trade bot, entry bot in Etsy, ETSY. And let's look at that greater than the high of the day. And the high of the day was, zoom in on that. Let me just do this real quick. High of the day doesn't give me everything up there. So show. Nope, I want to see all symbol info. High of the day. Oh, it's not even giving me there. Does cover over? No. Okay, so escape out of that and go back. High of the day here, I think was like 75.50. What's my levels in here? I'm going to use first level up, 75.70. So we'll use that. We're going to say add an option, and we're going to use the 70. I'm going to use the 75. So use the at the monies. That's fine. And then we're going to do the quick as well. Quick in there and do create. Okay, so that creates it. I'm going to do an entry bot on this one. I'm going to do, do a template in here. Every $2, I'm going to basically roll the first one, and then I'm going to exit on the second. So by doing that, oops, let's keep moving over now. There's other things you can do in here by adding trims, rolls, stops, right? This one's pretty straightforward from a day trading perspective. I could cancel this all very quickly by just hitting exit and go back to looking at other ones like this one here. I could trim 2 trims. This one I could roll and have my every 20% and create stops along the way in terms of the stops in there. So that if you click that, this becomes a little bit more complicated, but by just clicking on it, it's going to show you all of the different nuances. So if it goes down by 20%, I would lose. If it goes up by 20%, I would roll. And then it would continue to do that 20%, 20%, 20. This is 20 and 30. And then if I basically exit with another 20%. So I'm locked in gains along the way. I thought that was, again, decent, right? So it's not a bad one. We'll leave that one on there for right now. So again, just a good example to show. So coming back over to our Market Chameleon, and you guys have done some awesome work. If I go back to the main page, I think you did upgrade the main page. So it will, let's see, if I go back over here, you got all this nice stuff in here where we can find these scanners much easier now. Like this is the one I usually click on. Obviously there's some news and highlights coming into here and what they're doing, but this is where I would normally go. IV Ranker is always one that I will look at for opportunities as well, but the unusual options to me is, one of the biggest ones here. So I'll continue to work my way down through this. The last one I want to show is Shopify. Shopify is coming up here as bearish, right? So this is saying, in terms of the market sentiment, but let's look at this on the chart, because I think when you look at the chart, you may have a different opinion just because of today's action. Whoops, sorry, did not want to do that. Let's move that back up and zoom in. So today, very bullish candle. I would still say, yeah, it's still bearish in that it's still down below the 2 highs in here, almost a double top. But I thought this was a pretty good candle on this. Maybe you want to have a little bit more of a follow through on that. Maybe something like, maybe something like that. That's 150.75. We're trading 149, so that's not bad. I would probably use that as an entry bot as well. So this one is Shopify. We'll do this real quick. Shopify. And we're I'm gonna blow this up so you guys can see a little bit better. Nope, entry bot. There we go. Shopify and greater than 150.75. And we're gonna add an option, just do a single option. We're gonna say the 150s, and I'll do that quick. We'll do a default, that's fine, create. And then stocks moving around. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do the $2 here just real quick. While I'm not even looking at it, I have something in place. So it's an easy way to say, all right, if it goes up by $2, I want to roll. So I can always come back into Shopify here and look at my indicator, see how much this is moving. It's not moving that much, but average true range says about $5. So that's every day it's going to move $5. So I may want to have a little bigger of a number there on my position, because that $5 is pretty big. So I only have it at $2. If the stock moves up by $2, I may want to increase that a little bit. So I can quickly go into edit and say, if this thing goes up by more than, let's make it $4. So we have a good move on this, then we're going to do okay. We'll get a good roll in, click confirm. And then I have to go fix my nested trade as well if I want to increase that. So this is saying $2. I can make an edit. Maybe I'll keep that one maybe a little bit lower and do something like if it goes up by $3, I just want to click exit. So again, this is how that's going to look. If I get into the trade through the entry bot, it's going to roll me up to the at the money options, which again, depending on where it settles out, I'll probably roll me up to the 157s. And then if I go up by another $3, I'll get out of that contract, right? So that's for this week. I'll go back and watch these. So I'm not putting any stops in there specifically on those. So hopefully that's a couple ideas that I think are relevant to the current market and what we're seeing. And if there's any questions, we'll happy to answer those.
Yeah, we did. Unfortunately, I can't see him, but something happened to the chat. But since he was asking, I know about Hood.
Hood was a great mover today. And I think that really came from Bitcoin going up as strong as it was. So Hood just took off, and I had used the breakout up here today as this high. That was like 130, a little bit over that, and we had really were able to capture a nice little move here. So that really started to take off. A coin started to move in terms of the big picture here. So coin, oops, I'm trying to draw a chart here with not the right symbol. So coin, I think has a lot of potential as well. The only problem is a little expensive, right? The options are a little expensive, but definitely one you could play with a call vertical, maybe play for the gap and then play for the high up here. That's trading around a 350. Then you have a much bigger gap all the way over here. So we start to get through there. I would definitely be locking in a good rolls in terms of getting up into this area and then look to play for this bigger gap. So I definitely like coin. Hood is already off and out to the races. That is all-time highs on Hood. So it's a little harder to trade, and I'll just show you the full kind of spectrum of this thing. This thing has just been absolutely on fire in terms of looking at this thing. So I would say if you're going to play it, I would play an at the money, slightly out of the money, and just basically be very protective with a stop position and rolling it up as you go up.
The other stock I did find was IREN, IREN.
Yeah, it is a it had a pullback, right? So, but I think for the most part, this has done very well today in recovery, because this was starting to look very, very ugly on Friday, right? So, I mean, that I think everyone agree. We start to take out lows here. This thing could roll over pretty hard, but today was a really good recovery. I'd probably use the close back here as my trigger. That close is 47.14, playing for the highs. I think we could really, really get going on this. You probably want to put some like Fibonacci extensions on this as additional levels, because this is again at all-time highs in terms of you look at the stock. The stock's gone since April from 5 to 50, right? Pretty impressive if you ask me. So I don't want to get caught up in a rollover in this. The other thing you got to be careful of is the implied volatility has been increasing on a lot of these names. So if that implied vol starts to drop and you're in a long position, you may make sure that you're protected in that way, that you have something against it.
Can you expand on the Fibonacci extensions they were asking?
So yeah, so Fibonacci extensions, let me see if I can find it in this platform. I don't do a lot of charting in here, but if you do let's see, trend-based, so that's retracement. Let me see if I can find one in here. So that's channels, pitchfork. I'm not sure if this will give it to me. So typically the way I would draw that would be something like here. This is giving me a retracement. That's not what I want. So let me see if I can find the extensions. Fib channel, fib time zone. Nope. Pitch fan, fib wedge. No, and I don't see what I'm looking for. I don't know if this is going to give me. Let me see if I can find it here. So this to here to pull back. So what this does is the extension. So this is the extension here, and it's giving you based off of recent trends. So what for what I would do if I'm in a high like this where I have nothing else to trade against, I would look for where Fibonacci may kind of pull out. Now you can modify this in here. Obviously, you can say how does this show? Which lines do I want in terms of styles and colors and all that fun stuff. But that's all built into the trading view system that we have integrated into the platform here. But what I would then use is if I'm in this something like this, I would use these potential levels as roll points or targets in terms of the bigger picture. You can see they keep going all the way up. So they're good levels. And then, the other thing you do is what I typically do is I would overlay, bigger picture levels. So if I see something like that, I would go back in and do another one. So do another level, maybe something like the same area. And so you go from the low point to a high point back to kind of where it's pulled back to. And that's just going to overlay additional levels on this. So that is, something. Now, the way I'm drawing it is a little bit, and let me just kind of see if I can undo it. So there we go. Let me do this one more time, and I'll make it a little bit easier for you guys to see. So if I do something like this, you can say here, no, I'm going to click on it again. So I click here to, let's say, up to that level, and I pull back. What I can use that same level, but I'm just going to drag it over a little further. It's still the same height of that's what you want to really grab, but it's going to give you kind of a better, kind of grasp of where the numbers are. So you can kind of pull it over to where you're looking at, and you can see this a little bit better. So I would probably look at rolling, 142.23, 148.11 of my next two targets on that one. Now, the other thing you could do is go intraday, which I often do, is if I go to like a 1 hour chart, I'd probably look, but this has been really, really just absolutely steady all day long. So if I have a big kind of retracement during the middle of the day, I may use an intraday or like a 4 hour chart, to try to say, is there anything that I like inside of here that I'd want to draw to give me some, better or closer targets than the ones we have. So hopefully that helps with the Fibonacci extensions.
Yeah, that was good. Last question Jim had was about entering a trade on OptionsRobot by setting IV points. Is that something that can be done? We've never discussed that.
In terms of implied volatilities?
Yeah.
No, that's very difficult. One, and I would not recommend it, mainly because it's subjective. And oftentimes when you're looking at IV points, again, there's a lot of nuances. We've actually explored that, but there's so many variables that you have to take into consideration. If you're using the midpoint IV, you're using the bid and offer in terms of implied volatility, and why would you be getting in at those points? So we recommend usually the price action because that's the most, or it's the cleanest in terms of price discovery, and it's the most easiest for a system. Whereas if you start to use IVs, it's running a lot of data, and it still ends up being subjective because, for example, your bid-ask spread could go wide, and if you're using the mid of that may not give you an accurate reflection of where the true implied volatility is.
All right, good stuff. Well, we're right up against the hour. Thanks again for doing this, Ryan. Very helpful to the Chameleon community and everyone who's joining us. And thanks everyone for joining. How do they join OptionsRobot if they have interest in trying it?
Yeah, there's a free trial. So you can go to OptionsRobot.com, click on, just basically look, through the site. There's plenty of links there. Click on one of those to get the free trial, sign your information in, and 14-day free trial. If you like it and you think you're going to want it, you can use the, for you guys, I'll give you guys the October special, which is just simply October for the password, or for the, I guess the code they call it. So you put in October and you get 50% off. So again, I would put that in, and if you are going to try it, I would recommend the longer term one because it's a one-time coupon code. So if you want to try, you want to kind of go in there, you can always downgrade from there and during the trial period. So downgrade if you don't want to use it, you can always cancel anytime. So hopefully that's helpful.
All right. Great job, Ryan. Thanks for doing this. Everyone's super grateful for your time and for showing us these great tools, and giving you some great ideas for the week going forward. We'll see you next Monday, my friend.
Awesome. Thank you. Have a great week, guys.
Have a great day. All right, everyone. Thanks for checking out another show with Ryan. I love these after-hour shows, and you're bringing some great questions, so thanks. One thing about Market Chameleon, we also have a free trial. Go up to the top, click on it. We offer a 7-day free trial to any new users who may be on today. Remember to like and follow us on all the social platforms. If you're on YouTube now, thumbs up. We do have a morning show every morning during the trading week at 9 a.m. with Dimitri, where he runs through a webinar every day. So join us there, and you can check MarketChameleon.com out on YouTube. We have well over 2,000 videos now on the YouTube platform. So check that out. Again, thanks for joining. Thumbs up, always appreciated. Everyone have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow morning at 9. Bye.